Hi everybody, it is time for Meals with Melissa, where I make healthier versions of things that most of us absolutely would love to eat. So today I have a really good one. I know I've really kind of gone towards the sweet treats, partially because I have such a sweet tooth. So sometimes I'm just looking for something to kind of knock that edge off without completely undoing where I'm trying to go. Now last week's the chocolate cream cheese cookies that we made, I finally actually had to get my family to take them out of the house. They were that good. I was struggling to stay out of them, and you know, I know what my limits are. So today we're going to make cinnamon crunch squares. Now that does not mean they're crunchy. Actually, this recipe comes from Quest Nutrition. Now I'd heard a long time ago that their protein powder was much easier to use in a lot of recipes. It bakes well, the texture is good. So I decided, as my daughter started to use the product, to try some of those things out, and it just caught my eye, the cinnamon crunch squares. So the reason why they're called cinnamon crunch squares are because we're using the cinnamon crunch protein powder. They're not crunchy, they're more like cookies. So just keep that in mind, that, you know, I was thinking maybe it's like a graham cracker. Nah, not so much, but it still tastes really, really good. So again, just like normal, I'm gonna make a half batch today. I've already preheated my oven. I got it this time. I preheated my oven to 350. I'm gonna make a half batch. So I will post the full recipe. The full recipe, I believe, makes 11 or 12 squares. So I've already made a batch. I can show you what they look like. I always make them in advance to make sure that they turn out, because every once in a while it just doesn't. So first I'm going to start with the dry ingredients, and I'm going to take 1 scoop of the protein powder. And I am using my mixer today. You know what? It's not because I'm lazy. It's just because it's just easier, right? So again, you can find this on Amazon. You can also go to their website, questnutrition.com. And they have multiple flavors. They also have like a basic baking option that doesn't have a flavor. And there's some recipes I really want to try. So we might be having a few of these things over the next few weeks. It's also zucchini season, so we've got to come up with some great recipes for that as well. So half batch, I'm going to use a scoop of the protein powder. I'm going to hold on to it because I'm also going to use a little bit in the cream cheese frosting that we're going to use. And the second thing that we're going to use is about 1/4 cup of coconut flour, which again, when you start working with coconut flour, it's a little more absorbable. You can't just do a crossover from regular, enriched, bleached flour, which of course is not the best option for you. But if the recipe has already kind of done the changeover, then great, it works great, and it doesn't contain any gluten. So, all right. By the way, today I am not using an actual mixer blade. I'm actually using a paddle because the dough is actually going to get really sticky and hard to get out of the bowl if you have used, just a regular mixer. All right, I'm also going to use, now this is a little weird, 12 tablespoons of almond flour. Now that is the half exchange from 3/4 cup. I've already done the measurements, so pretty easy. But again, if you're making the full batch, you don't have to worry about it. I just have already done that measurement. I just get almond flour. It used to be harder to find. Now this is just like the Great Value brand from Walmart. Not my favorite store. It just happens to be one of the least expensive for the size of my family. All right, from there I'm going to use 1/8 cup of a sugar substitute. Now I like pure because it's primarily stevia. You can use Swerve. Just be careful when you're starting to use sugar alcohols that you can get a little bit of digestive discomfort. There's also a little bit of research that shows that too much of some of those sugar alcohols can actually change your gut flora and become a problem. So you got to make sure that you're not overdoing it. You'll know pretty quick. You'll know pretty quick if you're overdoing it. So 1/8 cup is actually 2 tablespoons. So that makes it super easy. Now I'm using the granular option for the actual cookie itself, and then I'm going to use the confectioners for the frosting because it just mixes better. So I'm using 2 tablespoons of this. Now the cookie, fortunately, is not overly sweet. And one of the things that most people notice when they switch from sugar to some of the sugar substitutes is that it just doesn't taste the same. And I know stevia to a lot of people tastes a little bit bitter, but actually after you've been utilizing it for a while, I don't eat sugar rarely. Okay, maybe in New York I eat a few things with sugar in it, but in general I don't use a lot of products with sugar in it. So to me, this actually tastes ridiculously sweet sometimes. So it does the job. All right, to that, in the dry ingredients, I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons. Got that? 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, because of course we love cinnamon, and cinnamon's a freebie. Cinnamon does not really contain any calories. It's a spice. So it makes it great to put into like everything. My Some of my family members actually cook their fish with a little bit of cinnamon on it, and their burger as well, which I find fascinating. I personally haven't done it yet, but they love it. It says it brings out the flavor. Okay, and last but not least, I'm going to add 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder. That's my leavening agent. That's easy, guys. Take a 1/4 teaspoon, right? And add 3 of them. Okay, so I'm gonna mix that just really quick. It doesn't take long. My mixer is really, really loud, and I apologize about that. I'm not sure what happened when I bought the bigger stand mixer. I did it because I love to bake, and so, you know, it's kind of nice to have a 5-quart versus the smaller, what was it, 3.5, 4-quart. But for some reason, it's just louder. All right, so give that a second. It's going to mix up, and then I'm gonna add my wet ingredients. So really, it doesn't take very long, even though this is more ingredients than I usually like to, utilize, because of course, I don't do anything complicated. It's really super simple. You're gonna mix once, you're gonna add the wet ingredients, mix once, and then stick it in the oven. So it's not too entirely bad. The other thing that I wanna tell you is that there's going to be little chunks when you're done, and you're gonna think, what is that? Even when you do the frosting with the cream cheese, you're gonna think, is that cream cheese frosting? It's not. The protein powder actually has little tiny cereal pieces in it, so don't stress out over that. That's not, it's not that you didn't mix it well enough, it's that it's just got little chunks of the cereal pieces so that it's cinnamon crunch. All right, so to that I'm going to add 1/3 cup of unsweetened almond milk. Now your choice, we actually right now are using vanilla flavored at my house, so that's what we have. Super simple. I do unsweeten because I don't want the added sugar. The whole point is that these are supposed to be low carb. I can't say they're completely sugar free because the Quest protein powder is not 100% sugar free. So although it's a good option, it's not 100% sugar free. So I'm gonna add that to my mix. Okay. I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons. Again, this is a half batch, so normally I'll be a little bit more than that. 2 tablespoons of liquid egg whites. Like I said, this is super simple, and even though it seems like a lot of ingredients, it's really not, and it really doesn't take that long, and they taste really good. That's kind of a given, right? If I've got it on here, it better taste good. Every once in a while I have an epic fail. Usually those don't make it to camera, so just keep that in mind. All right, so to that, the last part of this, for the cookie part, is I'm gonna add a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Gotta love it, I love the smell. It just reminds me of baking, even like Christmas time and holidays, which is one of my favorite things. I love those memories. So, okay, so to that, I'm gonna let it mix until it becomes a really stiff dough. Now, if you follow the instructions on the Quest Nutrition website, you're supposed to roll it out. I'm gonna tell you right now, that does not work. Tried it a couple of different ways. We're actually going to pat them into squares because, yeah, it's just not gonna happen. It's gonna stick to your rolling pin, stick to whatever you try, stick to the wax paper. It's just gonna stick. So, I already have my favorite all-time product when it comes to cooking and baking. I've got parchment paper on my pan, so it's ready to go. So I'm gonna mix this till it gets thick, which will just take just a second. And if you find that it's not getting to quite the right consistency, if it's a little too dry, you can always add a little bit of the almond milk, which I did to the frosting last time, because it got just a little bit thick. Okay, see, it's already mixing up. Super, super simple. All right, all done. That easy, guys. All right, so clean it off. Notice there's no butter. Now, let me tell you my feelings about butter versus margarine. I've noticed still a lot of companies will use margarine. We're still being told that margarine is the healthier option, which is not true, guys. Please do not be using margarine in your recipes. That is not healthy. You shouldn't be using vegetable oil either if you can help it. Yeah, just a lot of misinformation out there. It's very, very frustrating. And of course, the more that I read and the more that I learn, the more that I realize it's pretty blatant, and it's a little frustrating that some of the things we're being told are completely incorrect, and then people wonder why we are dealing with all these health issues. All right, so again, because it's going to stick to everything, I'm actually going to pat these into about 1/2-inch squares. And they're not gonna be perfect, and that's okay. Nowhere is perfection required in this process. So I want them to be about 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So I'm gonna get them kind of there, and then I'm gonna put them on the tray. And then, all right, sorry about that. Somebody was trying to call me, so I'm going to learn to put that on airplane mode when I do this, because it is on my phone. But no matter. I was just putting together some more of these. So you're gonna pat them out, right, till they're about a 1/2 inch, and then I put them on the tray, and then I'm going to just kind of pat them flat just a little bit, because I do want them to cook evenly. So I'm gonna work on that for a minute. Okay, I'm not gonna do this all at once because I can do this when I'm done, and I'm gonna move on to the frosting. Okay, so super simple on the frosting. Okay, so I'm gonna finish those in a minute. I'm gonna lick my fingers. Because it still tastes pretty darn good. And there's no eggs, there's no egg whites in it. Just so you know, liquid egg whites have been triple pasteurized, or at least pasteurized. So unlike regular eggs, which can have some issues with foodborne illness if you're not careful, egg whites don't tend to do that. I actually drink my egg whites when I have to have them because I don't particularly like them cooked. Yes, I'm weird. I don't care. All right, so I'm gonna put that to the side for a moment. I'm gonna grab myself a bowl. And again, it doesn't take much, it doesn't need to be a very big bowl. So I'm going to, for the icing, oh, by the way, so the cookies are gonna go in the oven at 350 for about 16 to 18 minutes. I'm gonna say probably err on the side of less, just because otherwise they get to be a little dry, and I like them to be a little less dry. I also tried a couple of different things to see if the texture is better if I cooled them off and put them in the fridge or the freezer. They're actually better warm, so just, yeah, I mean, I test these out, right? So for the icing, other recipe, super simple. Again, it's more ingredients than normal, but it's really not too bad. So I'm actually, first thing I'm gonna do is take 1 ounce of cream cheese. Again, back to the carbohydrates versus fats. Our bodies need fat. It's been a fallacy, excuse me, and it's been proven like for years and years and years that, you know, a higher fat diet, as long as it's not trans fats and, you know, vegetable oils and things that aren't good for us, even saturated fat is good for us. We need a certain amount of those saturated fats. There is no data behind the fact that saturated fats are unhealthy for you, but yet we're still teaching that. So I'm going to use full fat cream cheese, although you can use low fat or fat-free cream cheese if you choose to. And just to get this to mix a little bit better, it doesn't say it in the recipe, I'm gonna just nuke it on half power for like 15 seconds, just so that it's a little softer, even though it's been sitting at room temperature. I just want it to not quite be, so I want it to be a little more runny, because I want it, this is more of a drizzle versus a natural frosting. To that, I'm going to add another half a scoop of the protein powder. Actually, I'm gonna do a little bit less than half because it's a little, almost too much. Okay. So I got my cream cheese. I'm gonna say a 1/3 scoop of the protein powder. I mean, it still tastes good, don't get me wrong. I don't think that it needs to be quite so much of the powder. Okay, to that I'm also going to add 1.5 teaspoons or more. The last batch I made, I added a little bit more than that of the almond milk because it just to me was a little too thick. But of course it's super easy to fix, so not really a big deal. But I'm gonna add about a tablespoon. Actually, I'm gonna just do 2 tablespoons because I want it to be a little bit loose. All right, and then last but not least, okay, I'm going to add a half a tablespoon of pure confectioners. Okay, so again, this is more like powdered sugar. It just makes it a little bit different consistency. It's a little bit finer ground. So realize that usually sugar substitutes are per volume a lot sweeter than actual sugar. So you don't usually need quite as much of it as you would a regular, you know, sugar option. So I'm gonna put half a tablespoon in there, and then I'm just gonna grab a fork and mix that up really, really well. And it's, again, takes 2 seconds, guys. One of the things I loved about this, I don't do a lot of complicated, I don't do things that take a lot of time. Now, maybe over the holidays a little bit, just because I really love to bake and I really love the holiday flavors, not gonna lie. But this really doesn't take any time. So it actually just mixes into a nice little drizzle right there. Tastes super, super, super good. Okay, now let me show you what these are gonna look like. Because I haven't thrown these in the oven yet, I'm gonna go ahead and do that, but I've already made a batch so you know what they look like. They turn out super cute, and they're really good, and they're not ridiculously sweet. So, here's my little batch that I made, and they turn out really good. So the cookie itself is not super, super sweet. The frosting's a little sweeter because it's a little more concentrated, and blended together, they taste amazing, and there's no actual added sugar besides what is already in the protein powder. So super simple, super, super great, and if you like the flavor of like cinnamon toast crunch, those kind of things, this is the treat for you. So try it. You guys let me know what you think. Hop on here, leave me a message through Facebook Messenger, or you can post something below. Or if you have a really great recipe that's super simple to make that you'd like to share, let me know. We're always looking for something great. I promise I'm gonna try and do some more actual meal recipes that are super simple. I know we're all busy. I know that we need things that are efficient and easy to make for our families, and we also want them to be healthy. So I promise to work on that. I just couldn't help myself because, again, I love the sweets. So have an incredible week, you guys, and until next time, that's Meals with Melissa. Have a great weekend.